Superbooth 2022 with Tim from Dirtywave.
How's it going?
Yeah, good man, good. What have you got to show us today?
So this is the Dirtywave M8. It is a tracker, portable handheld music tracker based on, kind of influenced by another tracker on a Gameboy called Little Sound DJ or LSDJ. It has 8 tracks. Audio input and output, MIDI in and out, synthesis and sampling. It has built-in effects, reverb, delay, and chorus. The MIDI input control surface can map to the parameters for real-time control. And it's
and you can also you can send out the MIDI to external gear as well.
Exactly, yeah. So how M8 works is there's a variety of instrument types. So you have for a MIDI out instrument type where you can select the channel, the bank, the program change number, and then 10 configurable CCs and values. And that's per instrument. Any of the 8 tracks on M8 can play any of the instrument types, so it's not like dedicated for special type of synthesis. We have a 4-op FM synthesizer, a sampler which supports stereo samples, and all samples are streamed off the SD card, so there's no thing like memory limitation or any of that. It's got macro synth, which is port in of mutable instruments braids, essentially, which has a variety of synthesis engines in it. And then we have wave synth, which is kind of like chiptune wavetable synthesizer.
With a bit of PWM on there, I imagine.
What's that?
With a bit of pulse wave modulation.
Yeah, of course.
And how is it connecting to this screen here?
It's
really nice to see it for the viewers.
Yeah, so it has a USB jack that supports audio and MIDI, as well as a serial for running a remote display. So at home, you could use like a Google Chrome browser to run the interface for, I don't know, if you're live streaming or want to capture something. It makes it very easy, and particularly useful for running this booth.
Absolutely. But the screen itself is also really very clear, isn't it? And perfect for taking on the train.
It's also a touch screen, which basically doesn't really mean much, except for it's kind of like a chaos pad. You can assign the X and Y axis to any of the synthesizer parameters.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so can we hear what it can do?
Sure.
It's really quick, like refresh rate. It's very sharp.
Yeah.
So what are we listening to here?
This is one of my songs that I wrote maybe a couple months ago. But this in particular right here is the synth bass line. You can actually see it modulating, which is FM synth, but it's kind of running in an additive mode where each oscillator is basically separate. So it's kind of like an analog stack up of oscillators.
And are you using some of your effects on there as well?
Yeah, you can hear the reverb and chorus and delay.
It sounds lush.
Yeah,
it's really kind of cinematic sound.
Yeah. So this the lead that's going on there, that arpeggio, is also another FM synth in an additive mode. Another cool feature about M8 is because all the samples and such are streamed off the SD card, I could load up a whole nother track and it'll actually cue it and start playing it immediately without spending any time loading up the track. So if you're doing a live set, etc., you could switch songs pretty much instantly and even on time.
That's a really great feature. I use Renoise myself, and you can't do that in that sort of DAW. So for live performances, that's such a great feature.
Yeah, the M8's designed to be portable, so it really only has 8 buttons to work with. For those of you that aren't familiar with LSDJ style tracking, using the 8 buttons might seem like a limiting factor, but once you get the shortcuts, which takes maybe 30 minutes or an hour, you end up flying along and writing tracks really quickly. the other thing is, you know, with external MIDI control, like hooking up, say, the fader fox here. So one of the other things M8 has is on the master bus chain, it has a limiter to help make the EQ, to make the volumes all kind of sit well together, and then it also has a kind of a DJ low pass high pass filter. If you ever used a DJ mixer with the high pass,
yeah, that's pretty.
So I'm gonna hold down Option on the M8 and just turn the knob over here, and then that instantly maps now the DJ filters assigned to this knob on this fader fox. So.
That's superb. Lovely sound too.
Yeah, thank you.
So you can send MIDI, you can load samples in.
You could also sample with it as well. So the audio input can either be routed into the mixer and be sent to the reverb, chorus, and delay. The input can also act as a dual mono input to send two different signals to, you know, any of the delay, chorus, reverb send effects. And then it also has USB input as well, and you could record that in the M8 itself and edit the sample.
Wow, so sort of like bouncing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well,
Resample.
for the input, it would just be recording a sample. But this also does rendering. So you can render like where you want to start rendering at, where you want to stop rendering at, all the tracks. If you want it mixed or stems, it'll export all the WAV files.
Wow, that's really cool.
But yeah, it also does internal sampling. So what you could do is, like, say you could write a MIDI sequence for an external piece of gear, run it into M8, and have it play that sequence that you wrote on M8 and record it on that synthesizer. Which actually this song has some of that. Let's see. I need to find the actual point where it's at.
It's quite a world away from LSDJ, like the sound sonically, isn't it?
Yeah. Of course, you could do the Wave Synth engine does chiptunes okay and that kind of sound effects, but yeah, it's full 32-bit internal processing, and yeah, it's just a world away from chiptune. Yeah, but still, its roots are based in LSDJ.
Yeah, definitely. And am I right in thinking there's a speaker? Has built-in speakers?
Stereo speakers. Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. So, are you working on updates for this?
We just released a new firmware update, and we're currently just still fulfilling pre-orders. You could order this currently just through pre-order alone, just because it's hard to keep up with demand with the shortages and everything.
Yeah. And how much does it retail for?
$550. US dollars.
US dollars, right. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Tim, for showing us the Dirtywave M8.
Thank you so much.